Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carla Hudson, and I'm with the product management team here at MedEvolve. And today I'm going to be walking you through our new appointment reminder solution that's available in our latest version of MedEvolve 8.0. So without further ado, let's get going. Just some little housekeeping here for everybody on the line. We've got quite a few participants, and all of you are on mute so that we don't have any background noise and so forth. But we do encourage questions. So if throughout the webinar, if you want to feed those in, we'll get those towards the end. But you can either put them in the chat or the question box on your GoToWebinar little panel there. And these are the instructions to access that. So please, we encourage the questions. And I don't think this will take the full hour. I think this will probably be about 40, 45 minutes. So we should have plenty of time for questions at the end. All right. As I mentioned, we have had a great response to this invitation, and just in general, when talking to folks about appointment reminders and what we were doing to build this out within MedEvolve, we've had a really great response. So these are the stats that went out with the invitation and just reasons for automated appointment reminders. So I think because of the turnout and the interest that you guys understand the value of automated appointment reminders. You know, you don't have staff that has time to be on a phone and make those calls, yet you don't want empty schedules and a lot of no-shows. We need to prevent those. And just on the consumer side, myself being a consumer, I really do appreciate those appointment reminders. Everybody's busy, and even though I have it on my phone and on my calendar, I typically just put them in, and I don't think to have it remind me 2 days in advance. So I really do appreciate those text messages and calls, just to say, give me that heads up in the next 2 days or tomorrow I've got this appointment. So it really does help with the patient satisfaction, as well as helping the revenue to keep those schedules full. So once you've gotten updated to the recent version, if you're interested, let's go through what this process looks like. There is just a tiny bit of setup on the back end. For your part, the setup, you may need to adjust the time zone. We have added a new feature in the under Enterprise Manager, from the menu Manage Enterprise Manager, there's a place to set the time zone. This is not necessary for everybody. This would be for those folks where their database or their server is housed elsewhere and maybe in a different time zone from the practice. So for those on our data center where your server, your database is in a secure facility in Arizona, yet you may be on the East Coast in a completely different time zone, you can set your time zone here so that our system knows that, and when it starts delivering those text messages and phone calls, it's based on your time zone and not where your server is sitting. So this may not be necessary for everybody. The second piece is for the MedEvolve team. We'll do a setup of your account in our Twilio account, which gives you the credentials to log in, and we'll set this up for you. I just wanted to point this out because we may need to, we'll be talking to you about setting up perhaps a number of phone numbers based on your appointment volume. There's a lot of regulations around text messaging, consumer protection about, spamming. We don't want to spam our clients, and appointment reminders are not that, but phone companies are very particular about a single number contacting people multiple times. So they are in a constant lookout for a particular phone number, sending over a certain number of texts in a single day, and that limit is around 120, 150. So depending on the volume of your appointments, we may have multiple phone numbers, and we'll rotate through those numbers so that we don't hit those thresholds, so it doesn't, alert any phone companies. So that's it for the background setup, real simple. And next is just the configuration within MedEvolve. So to get there, and this is to actually set up the message and then the timing of those messages. To do that, we'll go to Tables, Appointment, and then Appointment Messaging, simple enough. And it brings up this new configuration page. Now there's a lot on this page. There's a lot of information, a lot of options. So I am going to actually move from the PowerPoint slide to the actual application, and we'll see how seamlessly I can do this. I think it will just show a little better here. So can you all see that on the screen now? Okay, so this is that same form, but it's actually in the application, and I think this will go a little smoother here to explain the different options in setting up the messages. So this is where you would actually formulate that text message or the voice message that'll go to the patients. And you can have different messages based on your providers. Different providers might want a different message. Maybe different locations have different messages. So you can create a configuration based on your resources, your appointment locations, or your appointment statuses. You'd simply give that configuration a description or a name. I've done one just generic here. And then you would enable it if this is one that you're going to use. And then we have a message type. It'll default to reminder, appointment reminders. And then we have another type, notification, which I'll get to in a minute. But the reminder, just set up that it's a reminder type, and then you can just simply type this free text area, type in what that message will be. If you're like me and you don't want to think about what that message might be and construct it, we do have a default message, which is what you're seeing on the screen now, and you can simply click this and it would populate the message here. But we do obviously, want you to, put anything in there that you want. But remember, this is a text message, so we want to be brief and we want to be concise. We also have a field chooser. If you'll note in the message, some of the fields have the parentheses around them or the brackets around them. That indicates that it's a system database field, and it'll populate that information based on the specific patient and appointment information. So if you're constructing your own message, you can select the field chooser, and this demographic form will populate, and you can just by double clicking on any item here, have it fill in the message where you want it. It's as simple as that. The other piece of this, if you wish, we thought, well, while we're sending them a text message, reminding them of their appointment, why don't we take the opportunity and maybe remind them that they have a patient balance? So that's an option you have also. If you enter information into this separate text box and the patient has a patient balance, we will add this on, as a part of that text message. Just a gentle reminder to the patient, you've got an appointment tomorrow, and you also have a balance, so be prepared to pay on that as when you come in. So it kind of gives you that opportunity as well. And then after you've created your message, which will go out on the text or the voice, the option of the patient balance, all you have to do is schedule it. So you can enter the number of days out from the appointment. And this is where, some locations might want to notify the patient the day before, some 3 days before, some I've even heard of, a week before the appointment. So you would just put the number of days out from the appointment date of which, we'll start notifying the patient, and then what time you want those messages to start generating. And that's it as far as the setup. There are a couple other options here that you can choose. The number of attempts will default to 1. We'll send out, the message based on this criteria. But if the patient should get the message and then not respond, you have the option to set the attempts, to however many times you would like to try again for that patient. So, for example, if your days out is 3 days out and there's no response after the first message, then maybe 2 days out it'll try again if you have 2 attempts there. And then we have the option to include the rescheduling phone number. I hope you guys can see this. It might be kind of small. So based on the location of the appointment, under tables where you have your locations, the phone number on that location can be sent along in that text message should the patient choose the option instead of confirming the appointment to reschedule the appointment. They'll have the option to confirm, reschedule, or cancel. Should they choose reschedule, then we can follow up their response with, well, we understand that your plans change. Please contact this number to reschedule your appointment. It's just a convenience for the patient, and they can just click that and then start that call to the office to reschedule their appointment. Then the other option, we had to give you an option for the cancel. Oh, excuse me. We've talked to a couple, some clients, and there are sometimes specific appointment types based on their location, maybe under radiation treatment or specific types of treatment, that they don't want the patient to just cancel without the practice being aware of it. So if they're going under some type of treatment, like scheduled for a certain types of surgery, or as I mentioned, cancer treatment, then they want to be able to see that the patient wants to cancel so they can contact the patient and, and really notate or document why the patient is canceling and maybe try to get them in. If it's a type of appointment that, if they cancel, then you're fine with them just canceling. If this is selected, then we will perform the cancel of that appointment in the schedule. It'll just be removed, just as if you right-clicked and canceled it. So we will cancel it by patient. You'll still have that record of it, but it does remove it and clear it from your schedule. And there's nothing else that you would need to do with it. If that is unselected, we'll perform what we're calling that soft cancel, and we'll just change the appointment status to cancel request. We won't remove it from the schedule. It'll be there and with a status change, so that you'll see that it has been a cancel has been requested, and you can contact the patient if you need to follow up on that particular type of appointment. So that's a basic setup. Once it's set up and saved, you'll see that any of your configurations listed here. I do want to point out also we have an alternative message. I'm going to click here, and that's based on language. So I can create a message with the same configuration, and then right now we're only supporting Spanish as the alternate language. So if I select Spanish here and we have a message typed in here, and then it would be up to you to translate it here, enter it here in the Spanish language, but then based on the account, if they're in account information where you can select the preferred patient language, if that is Spanish, then we'll send the Spanish translation instead of the English. But it's the same message and the same configuration days out. And then I had mentioned prior the other message type. We also have a message type of notification, and this was suggested by one of our clients. There are times when you've sent out that reminder, the patients have confirmed, and then something like some bad weather happens, and we need to quickly notify those patients that we're either going to be closed for the day due to the inclement weather, or maybe a doctor's called in sick and I need to send a quick message out to all these patients, or maybe we're just opening a couple of hours late due to some unforeseen circumstance or whatever. You can create a notification, and then based on maybe all the appointments today for all the doctors, or a specific doctor if he happened to be the one that was couldn't make it into the office, and then those will go out for all of those messages, and it's just a notification. We're not expecting a response back. We're just notifying those patients of a certain situation. So that's the configuration. So we've got it set up, and you've configured your message, and then it'll based on the appointments, these messages will go out in either text or a phone call. But while we're on this form, I do want to point out a couple of different of other tabs as well. The message history. This will allow you just to go through and see under the processes, each time a process was run for each of the different configurations, or it allows you to see, based on a date range set here, what messages have been sent during that day for, by appointment date or message date, and what those responses were, each individual patient message and the responses. You can filter any of these columns if you're looking for particular responses. Maybe I want to see the calls that have failed and call them manually, the ones that have no response or no answer. You can export these files as well. It goes out to an Excel or CSV format. And then the other one is just the usage. So based on a date range here, it defaults to the beginning of the month to current month, basically for you to confirm, billing, how many text messages were sent, how many calls were made during for each day during whatever date range. Just you see the general usage. So after, let me go back to the PowerPoint now. We've seen the message configuration here, the demographic picker to create the messages in an alternative language based on the patient's preferred language. Here's our message history and the usage. And so now that we've got it all set up, the message is configured, we can start the process. So how do you get these folks opted in for texting? So our logic was to instead of blanketly assuming everybody's opting in and then asking them, and having them opt out, we are opting in the patient, requesting that the patient opt in for texting. And we did that so that we would specifically have a record in the practice management system, a history record of the patient agreeing to allow text messaging. As we move forward with this type of technology, the consumer protection is getting a little stricter and stricter. So more and more, we're going to need the documentation in that the patient has agreed that they want this type of communication. And we're looking forward also, not just, with appointment reminders, but appointment recalls. And maybe we can expand this out to just some different notification. Maybe there's a certain product that you guys have, or that we've got flu shots, in the office and then come in, or there's certain treatments that are available that are optional, and then you want to send out that type of notification. That gets close to type of marketing that might be used for this. So we really need that agreement that the patient has agreed to this type of communication. So we've gone down the route of asking the patient to opt in for the text messaging. So to start that process, either as the patients are as the patients are checking in, or as you're calling the patients, or the patient's calling in to schedule the appointment, you can opt the patient in or ask the patient to opt in for texting, either from the account information screen that is shown here, and you can do it from, as you'll see, either their home phone, the other phone contact number, or the mobile phone. And if you click on the label for any one of those items, you'll see an option to verify. And if you select that, this little form comes up and it displays the number that you have selected. And then if you send verification, it'll send a text to that patient, and with the request of them opting in for texting or not. So they can have and then they would need to respond, 1, to opt in, 2, no, they want to opt out, and then you would have that history in their record there. So if they've opted in, when the appointment reminders are run, they will receive a text. If they've opted out, or if this verification process has not occurred yet, then they will receive a voice call. You can do the same thing from the scheduler. That was the process from, the account information, the same thing from the scheduler. So as the patient is checking in, or as you're scheduling their appointment, you can right-click from the patient on the appointment screen, and this new text messaging option is there in that right-click menu from the appointment, and then you can say, select the option to verify texting, and then that same little verify text box will pop up from the scheduler, and you can send that verification from here as well. And then you may have noticed that on account information and or the scheduler that there's some indicators now. If you'll notice that some of these phone numbers are red, some are green, and some are just the black font that you're used to seeing. So once the patient has opted in for texting, if you're on account information, the label of the phone number that they have chosen to opt in or opt out, whatever the verification has been done, that label will be red or green. Red if they've opted out, green if they've opted in for texting, and if it's the black label, that means that request has not been made. Same thing from the scheduler. The phone number itself will be green if they've opted in, red if they've opted out, and then black if the verification has not been requested. I also want to point out here that we are now displaying in the scheduler the patient's preferred contact number. Prior to this release, the only phone number that was displayed in the main scheduler was the patient home phone number. And if that happened to be blank, then there was just no phone number displayed. So now, based on the patient's preferred contact method that's set up on the account demographic screen, that's the number that will display in the scheduler. And you can see there in this little the picture here that, you know, we also indicate what number that is, or what contact method that is. So the M for mobile, H for home, O for other numbers. So that's helpful as well. Even if you're not using texting, that displayed preferred method will be displayed there in the scheduler. And then the reminders themselves. So this is just a shot of what those reminders look like on the, on the phone. You guys know what this looks like. So the patient will get a verification, to opt in or opt out of texting. And once if they've chosen to opt in for texting one, then their appointment reminders will come in as a text, and they'll have the option to confirm the appointment, cancel the appointment, or reschedule the appointment. And as we said, if they confirm, we're going to update the appointment status in the scheduler to confirm so that it has been confirmed. If they have opted to cancel, depending on if you've selected it to cancel it, we'll either just remove it from the scheduler, or we'll update that status to cancel request and leave it in the schedule, depending on how you've set that up. Or if they've actually requested to reschedule, we will update the appointment status to reschedule as requested. That's hard to say. And then we'll also put that on our rescheduling tab. So here's just a shot of, the options. We've updated the appointment status based on their response to that reminder. And if they've got a phone call, it's the same process. Excuse me. And you'll see those statuses reflected on the schedule. And if they've chosen to reschedule or requested to reschedule, it will also show up on your rescheduling queue in the schedule. Just as now, if an appointment is affected by a block, it shows up in the rescheduling queue. Those that have been requested to reschedule will be there as well. We have added to that the column of the status, so that if it was based on a text message, not just a block, you'll see that it was a reschedule requested, and you can sort or filter by that and make those calls to get those rescheduled. I do also want to show you in the scheduler, and this is also from the patient tree in the appointment. We do keep the history for each appointment, all the texting history or the message history back and forth. And by a right click here, going up to text messaging, and then over to the view appointment text, I can see the history of any text messages, and this is voice messages as well, for this particular appointment. So this just says we sent the reminder to the patient, and she got a Spanish, reminder, and then she requested to be rescheduled on this date and time for that appointment. And if I select all messages, then I can see all messages ever sent to this patient based on any appointment or verification. So that whole history is there as well. And I did this from the appointment, but you can also do this from the appointment node on the patient tree. And that was quick, just about a 30-minute. I said it might be 40 minutes, but it took about 30 minutes to go through. I think you all understand, most of us day and age what appointment reminders are, so it's pretty simple. I think the advantages of having it in MedEvolve is just the convenience. So I can take any questions now, but I also, let me minimize that. want to let you know if you're interested in learning more about this, or if you have any more questions, or you're just interested in signing up, here's the contact information for that. And we do have a few questions while you're reviewing this that I'll go through, and I can go back through anything more as well and go into more detail if we need to. Someone wants to know that when will this be available, and what build do we have to be on? It is available. We are releasing it the end of this week. It has been in beta for about 2 months now. So it'll be available as of next week. You will have to be on version 8.0 and build 39 of 8.0 in order to have the texting capabilities. So that was a good question. And then someone has asked if the notifications go out in real time. They're scheduled to go out. Let me go back here to my configuration screen. They'll go out based on whatever time that you have scheduled this and however many days out from the appointment. Oh, I'm sorry, you said the notifications. The notifications, you schedule those to go out as well. And so if you want this notification to go out for appointments that are scheduled for tomorrow, I can set my time. Let's see, right now it is 2:56 Central Time, so I could say do this for all appointments tomorrow, and I want this to go out at 3 p.m. Central Time. So it would actually go out in 3 minutes. So you can control when those notifications will be sent. So, and if you want it to be same day, which was a follow-up to this, then I would just put this at 0 days out. So it would be but it's based on appointment. So it'd be for everybody who has an appointment or had an appointment today. I want them to get this message, and I want it to go out at 3 p.m. today. So you can control who's getting it and when it's going out. And the next question is, can you choose only certain providers within the office and/or location? The providers listed here, and I'm assuming this is for, what patients. This is all based on patient scheduled appointments. So these would be for appointments for any of the providers on your scheduler. If that helps answer that, I'm not sure. And then these would be any of the locations for which you have appointments scheduled. I'm not sure if I'm understanding that right. I hope that answers your question. If not, please follow up. But it is limited to just providers and locations that are on your schedule and that have scheduled appointments, because we're notifying the patients based on that criteria, appointment criteria. And then the next question is, can the verification number be different from the patient's cell phone number? You can send the verification number would have to be something that could receive texts, but it can be any number on the patient. Well, it could either be the home number, the mobile number, or the other contact field number on the patient account. I hope that makes sense to you. Let's see, back up to, I hope you can see this patient account. So it can be, you can send a verification to either this home phone number, something that's recorded in the other, or the mobile number for this particular account. So if this was a child's account, you would be putting, the patient or the parent's number in one of those contact fields, and then that would be the number that would have the verification. I'm hoping I answered that okay for you. And how quickly can this be implemented? Once you're up on that latest version of 8.0, it's probably within a week that it can be implemented. We just have to set up the account and in what we're calling Twilio, which is the vendor that we're working with, or the third-party application that we're working with, and set up that information, your account information within Enterprise Manager, and that's it. So it's pretty quick implementation, would take about a week. Oh, we got something from Andrea who said, thanks for the preferred. That was, you're welcome. Very, very welcome. Somebody is asking about the cost. That I am not sure of. I'm helped with the development. If you would like to contact this information, they can give you more on the cost. It's really based on, I know it's based on volume. So it would just depend, but they can get with you and get the volume of your appointments and figure out what that cost would be. Yes, we are recording this webinar, and we will be sending out to all the attendees. Actually, anyone who registered, even if you weren't able to attend, will get a copy of the recording and these slides. And the next question is the automated process that runs daily, or do we have to set it up daily? Oh no, once you've set it up, it will run every day. Let me just go back to this little, if I can here. As long as this is enabled, this is the notification. So as long as this is enabled, this is checked here, then this will run every day for the appointments, you know, in this scenario, a day ahead at 9 a.m. So you set it up once and that's it. You don't have to look at it again unless you just want to change something. Then someone has asked if the notifications go out to only certain doctors within the group. It will go out to patients who have appointments for the doctors that you have selected for this particular notification. So for example, if you had a particular doctor who was ill and had a full schedule of appointments tomorrow, and you wanted to notify all of those patients, you could set up a notification just for that single physician, and it's going to go out to patients only for the physician that you have selected. It just all depends on how you have that configured. So it can be all, or it can be one, or any combination of these. Let's see. Does this work with VoIP? It will call. Yes, actually, I've had it call my office phone, which is in VoIP. So it will call whatever. Yes, it doesn't matter. If that can receive a phone call, then it will do that voice call. It's actually not a vendor partner. It's a, and I did say that out of, I think, habit. Somebody had asked what vendor partner is being used for the appointment reminders and the texting. We have an application that we use called Twilio, which our development team is working in. We're not working with a different group or company of developers, but it is a different product that helps us set up the configuration and workflow for the messaging to go through, and it is called Twilio. And it actually we send the information to the Twilio account, and then Twilio actually sends out the texting and the voice recording. Then the next question is, does each patient have to be configured, or can this be set up globally in the system? So, and I'm assuming, I'm going to make an assumption here, but please follow up if my assumption is incorrect. So for each patient having to be configured, do you mean, does each patient have to be individually opted in? And right now, yes, there is no global message that can be sent out to everyone at a single time to have the verification text go out globally to all patients. So right now it is individually. And for the beta clients that we have working this now, they're doing this pretty well, that as patients check in, you know, maybe once they started implementing this, as the patients were checking in, they would ask them, and then from the scheduler, you know, opt them in, so they could get that built up. And then as patients were calling in to schedule appointments, the schedulers were doing the same thing, asking them if they would like to opt in for texting. And they built up that texting pool of patients rather quickly by doing that. But it is on an individual basis. And then we have a question, can the weather-related message be sent remotely from a home computer? Yes, if you can connect in from your home computer, it can be sent in yes. Good question, because if you're closing because you can't get into the office, then you couldn't get into the office to do this. But if you can, connect in remotely, yes, all you have to do is get to this configuration page, set up a message, and send it. Then the next question, do you have to ask the patient if you can send the original message that asks them for their permission? That's good. I'll have to double check. No, I think you can just send the message and then it gives the option to say, no, I don't want any more, or yes, I agree to text it. So no, I mean, I know the practices that we're working with in beta, they're doing it as they're speaking with the patients, as scheduling appointments or as they're checking in. So they're just giving them a heads up. Hey, I'm sending you this verification because we've got this new, feature that we can text you appointment reminders. So I'm gonna, I want to opt you in for this. But you can just send the message. It's pretty self-explanatory. They receive it. They'll know it's from you. So you don't have to ask their permission to send the first one. And there was a follow-up to that. Do you have to get permission from the patient to send the voice reminders? No, you do not. So the logic is because texting has specific regulations, we want them to opt in, so we have that on file. So if they have opted in, they'll get the text. If they have opted out, they'll get voice. If they have not been asked one way or the other, they'll get the voice, and you can just do that automatically without asking. Can we send a message after a no-show appointment related to the previous appointment, not a future one? I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking. Their message is for specific appointments. So if you've included no-show in the configuration, it will send a message to that no-show. I don't know if that's for the notifications. It completely depends on how you set that up in configuration. If whoever that is either wants to email me directly, I'm not sure that I'm answering that very fully because I'm not exactly following what they're getting at. I know these little chat things, it's limited on the information you can type in, so I apologize. I don't think I'm answering that very well. Then we have the next one. If a patient doesn't opt in for text, they will receive a call. Yes, that's correct. Can you show how you indicate which number will be called? Oh, we will. Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Let me go here. Let me minimize this. Let me get to a picture of it. We will contact, I think this is kind of small, but I'm hoping you can see. We will use the number that is set for their preferred method of contact. So if their preferred method of contact is home, mobile, or other, whatever is listed there, that's the number we will use. If they don't have anything in the preferred method of contact, or perhaps their preferred method is email, and right now we don't email the reminders. Hopefully that'll be in a phase soon after. But if that is blank or it is not a phone number, then we will first try to use the mobile. If mobile is blank, we will do home. If home is blank, we will do other. I hope that makes sense, but that's the order in which we'll try. First, the preferred method of contact, if it is a phone number. If that is not a phone number or it is blank, we will use the mobile phone. If the mobile phone is blank, we will use home. If home is blank, we will use other. And we have, we've got a little bit more time here. Can you have certain appointment types notified and others not that are scheduled with the same provider on the same day? If the patient has more than, thank you for bringing that up. Right now, we don't have it configured based on appointment types. That's coming in a future release. Later this year, we will have appointment reasons and appointment categories as part of that configuration. So right now, it's just based on the provider, the location, and the status. But if the patient has more than one appointment, scheduled that day, we only send one text reminder, and it is for the first appointment in the day. So whichever one is the earliest appointment, that's the one reminder they will get. The next question is, after the text is sent, what is the response time required before it times out? Another very good question. It is 23 hours before that times out. And that is why, so if we send it today at 9 and they have not responded by tomorrow at 8 a.m., and then they try to respond, it does go nowhere. We do send the patient back a text saying that it has expired, and they'll need to call the office to, confirm or cancel their appointment. So, but it does have 23 hours before it times out. It will not call any blocked. Actually, I don't think we have that logic. Somebody has asked, will it call any blocked sections of the schedule? So my assumption is we had appointments scheduled and then they were blocked. And we do not have logic in there now to skip those appointments, but that is a good point, and we can add that to it. So as of now, if they were scheduled and then it was blocked, we will still call. The next question is, can voice reminders be customized, or will the voice be automated? The text of what they're saying is the same text that it just reads the text message. I'm wondering if you're saying, is it a female voice? Is it a male voice? Does it have an accent? Can you customize that? Right now, it's not customizable by account, but that is an option that we can do. We can set that up within our Twilio account for a particular customer if you want, a male sounding voice, a female sounding voice, or otherwise. And then we have the next question, can we send the messages via internet calling versus a telephone line? That I'm not sure. I'll have to follow up on and ask our developers. And I have your contact information on that question, so we'll get back to you on that. I don't know the answer. We can do VoIP, so if that's what you're meaning, I have it set up in my office, a VoIP line, and it called that line. So if that's what you mean, yes, voice over IP, but I don't know. No, it's on the Twilio. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you're meaning if the originating call is via internet or a phone. We're actually sending the messages to that Twilio account, and that Twilio account, is making the phone calls or the text messages. It's not happening from a phone call, a phone line in your office. Or if you're asking if on the receiving end, does that patient have to have, an internet line or a phone line? So I can get some more clarification on that, hopefully, and answer that better for you. And it's asking, this is another good question. Are patients that are added to the schedule after the initial reminders go out, are they captured on the next run? Yes, they are. So, for example, if you have those reminders calling 3 days out, and then a patient is scheduled after that 3-day period, they will be picked up in the next run. So we do have that logic in there. Thank you for bringing that up. See, I'm noticing all the holes in my little presentation. Thanks for the questions and answers. So, and then we have, even though a patient doesn't opt in for texting, will they still receive a call? Yes, they will. So if you haven't gone through that, even asking them if they want texting or not, if that process hasn't been done, they will receive a voice. The voice is the default. They will receive the call. That is always the fallback. And we have a couple more questions. If you mark an appointment as departed, can you text them a link to a post? Not to a post-visit survey or something similar, a hyperlink to a website? Currently, no, but that is a good option to put into our feature release, kind of a survey after the fact. But with this release, no, that would be a future enhancement for this. And then next is, can you send everyone's questions? Oh, yes, out for an FAQ. Good, good. Good thought. Yes, we will. We'll send the questions and answers out as an FAQ attached, with a PowerPoint. We'll definitely do that because we've had some really good questions. And what phone numbers does the text come from? We will, through Twilio, we set up a set of phone numbers for each practice, and we can, in that, so they're just random phone numbers that are available through the phone companies. We can, predetermine what area codes those will come from, but they will be, we basically purchase phone numbers for your particular practice in order to send the text messages out. I hope that makes sense to you. So for each setup, part of the setup is to determine your volume of appointments. So we know the volume of text messages that need to go out daily should everybody, let's say, opt in for text. And then we make sure that we have enough phone numbers to rotate through in a single day, that we don't max that threshold of 120 text messages per phone number. So you may have 2 or 3 phone numbers that you purchased, and I think they're like $1 a piece to purchase. It's nominal, and we can purchase them, with assigned area codes. But the phone numbers themselves are just, random ones that are available that we can purchase for texting through the Twilio account. Okay, I think we have maybe one more question. And it's, do the voice calls have options to confirm and cancel? And do they automatically update in the PM? Yes, they sure do. So when the patient, answers the phone, they get the recording, and they would punch in, 1 to confirm, I think it's 2 to cancel, 3 to reschedule, and yes, it automatically comes back and updates the appointment status in the PM, just like the text messaging. So it acts in the exact same way. All right, that is it. I don't have any more questions. I've given you the 15 minutes back. Again, if you do have more questions, if something comes up and you do have a question, you can contact this information here, and we can answer those questions. Or if you're interested in the pricing or just want to know any more information, this is your contact information. Thank you for attending. We will have the slides out to you, and the recording, and a copy of the FAQs from this webinar out to you within probably, I would say, sometime next week. I don't want to commit to tomorrow. That's not just me being involved, but it'll be within the week. So that's it. Thank you all. Until next time. Bye-bye.